and welcome back to hour number 2. We're ready to take a right turn. It's about that time, right, Leo? It was getting a little bit of a heated debate
I had to kick Danielle out between hours. I just couldn't handle it.
I think Schreiner was loving it back there. What do you think, man? Were you jazzed up and awake with hour number 1?
I had some experience with some of the topics, so yeah, it definitely got me worked up over here in the studio.
So this particular hour is going to be a little bit calmer. We're going to talk about May being Water Safety Month. It's so funny to think about Danielle. Remember when she first came into the studio with us, how nervous she was? And now we have to try to figure out how to get the mic away from her. Like, she'll just keep talking into the break. We're like, shh, we have to take a break. All right, Danielle, we're like turning her mic off here. Let her keep talking and turn it down her headphones so she can't hear it. No, we're just teasing. We love her. She always brings some fun and enjoyment to the show. But we are going to roll on over to May being Water Safety Month. And I'd love to introduce our guest for the hour. We have Miss Frankie with Seal Swim School. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
And we also have Dennison. Is that right? Dennison or Dennis?
Dennison.
Dennison with Tampa Bay Baby Barrier. Welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Yeah, glad to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about May, right? There's a reason why May is Water Safety Month, and there's a lot of drownings here in the state of Florida. You guys probably know the stats better than I do, but there's a lot of children that drown every single year. A lot of our northern folks move here, and I don't think it's as much of a priority, right? Because there's not as many pools and bodies of water in other areas as we have here in Florida.
Absolutely. Florida has the highest drowning rate in the country. And Pasco County and Hillsborough County are right up there in the top 5 counties in our state. So we're definitely surrounded by water and risk.
So we're going to have some fun with this because my kids actually learned to swim at Seal Swim School. I went to high school with Erin. So she
awesome.
was a friend of mine growing up in high school. And
she's my aunt.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So family members here in the house, but so I remember actually my personal experience with it was my nieces almost drowned in my aunt's pool.
Wow.
Not once, but twice. And after that, I was like, yeah, we weren't even here. We were on vacation, but I was so upset about it that I was like, yeah, I'm going to teach these kids how to swim, and they're not allowed in the pool until they can swim. Like, that's just what we're going to do. So the questions that we're going to answer right on time, and I'll chime in with my personal experience as well, and then I'll share some cool stories about my kids actually swimming, which I think you guys and our listeners will enjoy. So tell us a little bit about Seal Swim School. So I know your story, but let's share it with the person listening on the airwaves.
Absolutely. So we have 4 year-round swim schools, and we have 2 seasonal swim schools. So we're all around the greater Tampa Bay area. We really push early year-round swim lessons. And yeah, we definitely believe that you're never too young or too old to learn how to swim, especially in Florida.
So let's talk about that, because that's a common question that you guys get, and it's actually a strikingly surprising number, right? But what age do you guys actually start teaching kids to swim?
So we have free water baby classes as soon as that baby's umbilical cord falls off.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
I know, like, it's just shocking, really, I think, to see. I thought the threshold was 6 months, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess it's immediate, right?
Well, there's 2 sides to it. So it's always best to start as early as possible. And we don't we don't submerge the babies when they're younger than 6 months old. But it's definitely good to get them acclimated, start teaching parents how to feel comfortable in the water with their children. And also, it's just fun.
Yeah.
The parents get to talk to each other.
The Mommy Talk class is a really good class for any parent to teach, because you learn a lot of the skills that you guys teach in the swim class that you can practice on your own at home if you have a pool or access to a pool.
Absolutely. We try to teach you how to work with your baby in the water. So water babies, you just you hold them, you learn how to handle it, you get comfortable. And then when you go on to our parent talk classes at 6 months old, then you start putting the baby underwater and teaching more of those kinds of skills.
So that's when we started. So the girls and my nieces were about 3 years older than my son. And my son he was born in April. So I think it was towards the end of that summer. He was maybe around 6 months old, maybe not quite. And that's when we first started experiencing the swim classes, the Mom and Talk classes. So we started learning the time he was 6 months old. We must have been in the seasonal class, thinking back. So we probably practiced at Harmon R Pool and some of the things we learned. We went back for a swim class I think the next spring, as I recall it. And then before summer, and this point, my son's like a year and a half, was literally swimming like a fish.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He was swimming so good. Because, you guys teach the kids how to hold their breath. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's really incredible. But I'll tell you, I got to share a couple of the stories that are... it was stressful for me as a parent. I wasn't stressed until other people stressed me out. But I remember going to like Adventure Island and then this other park, like this other water park down in I think Fort Myers or something. And I remember when we were at Adventure Island, they had these rock cliffs that you could jump off of, but they... At the time, and it may be different now, but they didn't let you wear a life vest. I think they probably would let you wear it now. But anyway, you couldn't do it. You had to be able to swim to jump off the life vest. Well, the girls were all 3 years older than my son, and they wanted to do it. They were about... Well, let me think. My son was a year and a half, so that would have put them about 4.5, 5. So everybody could swim by this point because it was the next summer. And my son could swim so good, and we were, practicing and swimming and stuff. But I remember I would be in the bottom of the pool in the water, and my son would jump off the cliff into the water. And I wouldn't grab him. I would let him hold his breath and swim and get to the top and, just really just be there to watch him and make sure. But the lifeguards were so freaked out by this little kid that could swim that they were literally like dive bombing the water to go save the kid. And it was like, it just became so stressful. And that other park in Fort Myers, same thing. This lifeguard made a beeline across the park to grab him and yank him out of the water. And I'm like, what are you doing?
My God.
And he was like, he was drowning. I go, he's not drowning. He can swim.
That's so funny. My mom used to say that would happen to her all the time because we all swam very young. And so we'd be at the beach, and so you'd have a bunch of young children just out swimming in the ocean.
And people freak out.
And
People get
playing
scared,
around.
yeah.
Sometimes you're splashing. You look like you might be in trouble, but you're not. So, yes, people would definitely comment on it.
So as the parent, it was so stressful. But I understand from the other perspective, right? Someone's running because they think your kid is drowning. I get it. People don't pay attention to their kid like they should, but my kids could swim. And so it was interesting that and so looking back, I know why it's such a shock because you guys teach kids to swim so young that they're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I don't think people realize that, yeah. What's the conception when people ask you, what age do you start swim lessons? I mean, I would imagine the conception, they think they have to be much older than they actually are.
I mean, I think everybody has kind of a different idea of it. I think a lot of people who have grown up around water in Florida usually tend to understand the younger start age a little bit better, I think. But if you're moving here from a place where you're not really surrounded by water, maybe there aren't a lot of pools and you're up north, swimming might not be as much of a priority. So if you're moving down here, just the water education is different.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So that was, it was interesting. And I'll tell you, I learned so much after that I had friends of ours that had kids that were just deathly afraid of the water, and they would get in with me and we literally taught them how to swim. So, I mean, if you've never checked out SEAL Swim School and you have children, I would highly encourage and endorse you guys because I worked with you firsthand. So we're glad to have you back.
Glad to be here.
So let's talk about why, what's the importance of teaching kids how to swim? Because we talked about all these northern people that are coming from other places. That's not a priority, but it really should be here.
Right. I mean, obviously, there's the safety aspect of it, which is the most important reason to teach children how to swim. So just where we live, we're constantly surrounded by pools, lakes, the ocean, retention ponds, all kinds of stuff like that. So just the amount of water and the amount of risk that we have, Florida being number one in the nation, our counties in particular ranking particularly high within Florida for risk, but also just all of the activities that we do here during the summer and when it's warm, which is almost always. But, going tubing down the river, going to a pool party, not only is it extremely unsafe to not know how to swim, but also really a bummer when you want to go do those kinds of fun outdoor activities.
Well, and I'll tell you, if you have a pool at your house, right, and you have a pool party, and you'll think about this like I do.
I don't have a pool.
No, but think about it from a liability perspective, right? And you've never experienced this because you don't have kids, but I know when our kids were young and we would have birthday parties and it would be a pool party, parents would literally drop their kids off and leave. And I would say, wait, where are you leaving? They would just literally free babysitting for 3 hours or whatever. Would just literally take off, leave their kid.
And the thing we didn't talk about was the employment opportunities. How many jobs in Florida revolve around water?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that too, but
30
it's
seconds.
it's interesting. So I know I have hired some of your lifeguards off duty to be the non-stop kid watcher for the pool. So
It's a great idea.
That
If
is
you're
really
having
cool.
a party like that, that is a
well,
great idea.
because you have other people hanging around, adults are drinking, and someone has to be the dedicated kid watcher. So
Right,
All
absolutely.
right, this is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back right after the break. We're going to actually explain how this works, and you teach the little babies how to swim. Stick around. We'll be back right after this break.
You're going hot.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. You are home. We are learning all about swimming and swim barriers and swim stuff because we are in May, which is you said it was Water Safety Month?
Water Safety Month,
Yes, it
yeah.
is.
So let's talk about, what do you do to teach let's talk about the water babies, right? Because I didn't experience that. So how is it that let's explain so that our listener and myself can understand how you teach the babies to swim.
Absolutely. So the water babies class, we're not doing a whole lot of swimming necessarily because we're not going underwater quite yet. However, we do try to get them comfortable on their back. Just the sensation of water going in your ears when you're laying on your back in a pool is unusual and uncomfortable to some children at first. So the earlier you can kind of acclimate them to that, the better. So we do a lot of we do baby yoga, we do developmental exercises, tummy time. The parents have a lot of fun with it. We work with them on their back and we sing songs. It's a great class. And then where we really start teaching them to swim would be in our parent taught class. So, we'll gently and slowly put them under the water, get them comfortable with breath control. We'll start to introduce safety skills like get the wall where we drop the little ones in and have them turn around and get the wall. And of course, floating on their back, which is a very important safety
Are
skill.
you guys still doing the monkey walk?
Yes. Yes, we try to teach children as many ways as possible to safely exit
How
a
to
pool.
get out. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what it is.
So I'm reminded of these studies that we read because as a baby proofer, we're always looking for ways to keep children safer. And there were studies done where they took babies that were literally less than a week old and put them in a simulated swimming environment, and the babies naturally want to swim. So they come out of the womb.
It
wanting
almost
to
comes
swim.
naturally because
Yeah.
basically living in water the whole time
Yeah.
for 9 months. So, yeah.
So it makes sense that having a baby swim class, it'd be like you're making sure they don't lose that knowledge they've had for 9 months.
It's very cool because you can actually see when you start having the babies swim, they'll naturally start kicking their feet to maintain balance in the water and everything. It's very cool.
That is cool. I would love to talk about the progress from which is great. The techniques you guys use are so good from the toddlers on up. Let's talk about this because this was my niece. Literally, you guys are saints. What happens when you get that kid that's deathly afraid of water and they are screaming? And I mean, this was my niece, Leo. Literally, my sister was so stressed out about it and she was screaming the whole time. No other kid screaming. She's the only one screaming. And my sister was going crazy because she was screaming. I was like, get out. Just go home, come back and pick her up in an hour or whatever long the class is. And I said, they'll get it. So it took her a while to calm down. But what do you do with the kids that are just screaming, deathly afraid of water?
So that's actually very common. A lot of children, when they start, are nervous, especially if they are, 2 or 3, where they kind of are developing. They've got their own personalities. They know what they're afraid of and what they're comfortable with. So it's new. So anything that's new can definitely be scary in the beginning. So we're very used to it because it is just a natural part of learning how to swim. We say there's always a settlement period of somewhere between 4 and 6 lessons to really settle into class, get to know your instructor, feel comfortable in the environment. And we really just try to give them the gift of time. We're very gentle in our approach. So we like to make sure that not only are they safer in the water, not only do they learn the vital survival skills, but also that they're comfortable in the water, that they're happy in the water, and that they have that healthy respect.
Yeah, you guys did a good job, I tell you. Because I remember her just screaming. And I was like, oh, these poor people. And then my sister was like, I can't have her screaming like that. I go, look, it's better than her drowning, so just leave. Let her learn how to swim. Just go.
Absolutely. My favorite thing is, too, since it is so common, A lot of times in our lobby area, I'll have a mom who's starting her child in swim lessons, and her child is upset in the beginning, and so she's nervous, the child is nervous. But it's really nice to see the community environment in the swim school, because other parents, like yourself, right, who have been there before, they'll all comfort each other and stick together and getting everybody through. So it's definitely nice to see.
She was vocal, man. She was probably one of the loudest ones I think you've ever had. She had to have been. And here's the thing, and I think you hit on something really important. The minute kids start getting that personality and they can develop that little sense of fear, that's almost when it's like, oh, it's too late. You should have really put them in sooner. So the fact that you do babies, do it before they develop that fear factor.
The earlier you do it, the better it is, because I started swimming when I was 6 months old. And I don't remember learning to swim. I don't ever remember. Right. I never had a fear of the water. It wasn't as much of a struggle.
Yeah. So what about adults? You got something you want to add on
It's not really a fear response. This is there's been studies done on crawling, and then the level of skill that a baby has with crawling is putting them on an incline and a decline, and watching the babies crawl to see how are they going to take a steeper slope. The babies with quote unquote no fear, basically they don't have those reasoning skills, and they just crawl no matter what the slope is, and they just slide down. The more intermediate crawlers will actually go slower on the ramps, but the expert crawlers will turn around and try and use it as a ladder to go down the ramp.
That's my 1-year-old.
So that's an expert crawler. So I mean, it's less about fear and more about just getting in tune with their own motor skills and their own limitations. So if you don't have them in the water and you're not teaching them to swim, they get to that point where they realize this isn't something I'm supposed to be doing. It's not a fear response.
They don't feel comfortable.
This is my skill set response.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I know that like the younger the kid is, you just don't have that. It's not an issue.
And sometimes they still sometimes they still need time to settle, because little babies cry too. But it's all part of the process. And like you said, it's way more important to give them those skills and set them up for success safety-wise. And if you stick with it, if you're consistent and you really dedicate yourself to the swim lessons, they will settle. Every child has the ability to learn how to swim.
So let's ask the obvious question. What about adults? We have so many people moving here from other states. There's got to be a lot of adults that don't know how to swim, and they're bringing their kid in to learn how to swim, but maybe they don't know how to swim themselves.
What's funny is a lot of times the way parents enroll into our adult classes, which we do have adult classes, we believe you're never too young or too old to learn how to swim. There's always benefit in it for you. But we get a lot of our adult swimmers because they'll bring their children to class, and then their children will be stronger swimmers than they are. And so their little ones will want to go swim into the deep end or do things like that. And if mom and dad aren't comfortable, a lot of times that's what pushes them to educate themselves on water safety and start to learn to swim as well.
That makes sense to me. So do you guys offer any type of private lessons in someone's home? Because I know that's how will be your great aunt now, right? That's how your great aunt started, was teaching kids to swim in her own pool, wasn't it?
So we don't currently go to anybody's home. We do offer private lessons, but for all of our lessons, we have people come to our swim schools.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have got enough locations now, but I think that's how you guys originally started, right?
Well, funny enough, we got founded by my grandma, Therese Seal, in an above-ground backyard pool when she was 9 years old. She started teaching neighborhood children how to swim. So that's really where we got started.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool story. I love how it goes. Can you give our listeners an idea what the cost looks like? Is it different for babies to toddlers to adults?
Well, the Water Babies class is free. Outside of that, tuition is pretty standard. If you're going to do group classes, you're probably looking at somewhere between $100 and $200 a month, just depending on how often you want your little one to swim. Children really thrive off of consistency and repetition, so we recommend that you swim twice a week, at least in the beginning, to get that little one comfortable.
Yeah, it's money very, very, very well spent.
Absolutely, priceless.
When you think about the fact that the kid can drown, and like
Absolutely.
for me, that's why I say that was knowing that my niece has almost drowned twice in my aunt's pool when I wasn't even there. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get you guys enrolled in a swim school. So, what advice do you have for listeners if they've got these kids that are afraid of water? water and they're screaming and they're trying to get used to, maybe it was like this great idea, right? During COVID, they wanted a pool, and so they fought through this crazy real estate market to get an offer accepted on a home that has a pool, and now they bought it, and the kid's definitely afraid of water. Now what? What advice can we give to them?
Just stick with it and know that you are not alone. It's very, very normal. And I would just really, if you do have a child who is very nervous about water, I would get them in swim lessons. A lot of times it's difficult to teach children yourself. Seal Swim School is a family company. So my mom didn't teach me how to swim. She had somebody else teach me how to swim. It's always a little bit easier.
Else, yeah.
Absolutely.
So the $100 a month, let's start there, right? Because that's where you guys are. How many times a month? That's a group class, right? Or is that once a week? Or what
That's
is
a
that?
group class, and you're looking at about once a week.
Okay. So, I mean, even if your budget is super duper tight, I would recommend at a minimum trying that out, because you will learn so much spending some time in your place with your instructors.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely a great, it's something to check out. If you have kids, you should definitely do it. I don't know how other swim class places go, but
It's called the layers of safety, and swimming is definitely the first one. The second one, I would say, is definitely our child safety fence for sure.
So when we come back, we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about some safety tips out near and in the water. And that's where you're going to come in, Dennison, because you work with Tampa Bay Baby Barrier, and you guys do those pool safety fences that are required by law, by the way. You have to have certain barriers and protection. Leo probably knows the statute on that.
Florida
so
building
we'll
code.
let him
Yes.
rattle that off when we come back right after the break. Our off-air number, if you got some questions about the water, 813-377-2775, or you want to get connected with Seal Swim School or get a baby barrier, 813-377-2775. You can call or text 813-377-2775. We'll be back right after this break, so stick around.
Welcome home, Tampa Home Talk. Welcome to half hour number 4.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. May is Water Safety Month, and we do have some of the stats actually in front of us, and Miss Frankie actually has some more stuff too. So
I can be depressing on the stats since I'm the statistician
well,
here.
let's just share it. I mean, because we're talking about it, right? So if you think it can't happen to you, it can.
Yeah, Florida drowning death rate among children ages 1 to 4 is highest in the nation. And drowning is actually the highest rate of death for because suffocation, poisoning, all those. Drowning is the number one cause of death for people 1 to 4. So to hear that Florida is leading the largest cause of death of babies and children is kind of scary.
And it's preventable.
100%.
It is preventable. But you have to keep in mind, babies can drown in as little as an inch of water. It doesn't have to be a swimming pool. Bathtub drownings happen more than swimming pool drownings.
Even a bucket of water.
A bucket of water, a tablespoon of water. That's all it takes.
But I think the chances and the risk are a lot less if they know how to swim. Just my opinion.
Absolutely.
88% less. If you put
There
your
you go.
child in formal swimming lessons, you reduce the risk of drowning by 88%.
Enough children drown each year in Florida to fill 3 or 4 preschool classrooms.
So what is the death rate in Florida from drowning? Do you know, like just from current stats?
So I know that it has increased after everybody was home so much due to COVID. A lot of children were at home because they weren't in school. A lot of parents were at home either not working or working from home. And children get very creative when they're bored. So we had one of our families that swims with us actually send us a photo. Their child was out in their pool area and they had a pool fence and everything, but the child took buckets and other stuff that they found on the porch and built themselves a little ladder to climb. Luckily, mom was right there, saw the whole situation before the little one could even get anywhere near the pool.
They were trying, though.
But children are creative, and also they watch you, they figure out how to get into things. So all that time at home and, just stuck in the same place definitely, I think, rose the rates more.
Absolutely. Every time I'm done with a pool fence, after I'm done installing, I always let homeowners know not to leave any toys in the pool or around the pool on the other side of the pool fence so it doesn't attract them from trying to get to that toy or any patio furniture against or close to the pool fence so they can't get on top of that furniture and jump over the fence.
And teaching your child how to swim, putting up your pool barrier safety, that's all great. We preach over and over again in baby proofing. there is no substitute for direct adult supervision.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like you said
100%.
earlier, Katrina, we should not be taking our children to a pool party and then
leaving them
and leaving them. I mean, even when I go to Cascaden Pool on the weekends, which the pool is open again, and I love that pool, they interview every single child that comes in, and you get a specific wristband depending upon how well you can swim. And the lifeguards know to look at the wristbands.
That's a good idea.
And they keep
That's a
children
great
out of
idea.
certain sections of the pool. And I mean, that's adult supervision.
That makes sense. There's you're not going to have a lifeguard trucking across the other side of the park. Like I was saying, if my kid had a different wristband, knowing that he could swim.
So if you are going to do a pool party, and maybe you should implement a wristband system. Ask the
Or
parents.
just hire a lifeguard.
Well,
Hiring a lifeguard is
Hire the Seal Swim
fantastic.
School
Both.
off-guard lifeguard.
Just add all the layers of safety, really.
Yeah.
Just-
Absolutely.
I was always so afraid that somebody would drown in my pool. Like, I just didn't want to be the one responsible. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's my home. I am responsible.
Right.
So that's why I felt, okay, these kids are young. Parents are just not getting it. They're doing it anyway. Because it wasn't that much. What is it to hire an off-guard lifeguard for 4 hours?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure that they would set their own price. So
Rough estimate. Give me a range.
I mean, they would probably do it for somewhere between $10 and $12 an hour. I mean,
Okay.
we
That's-
don't.
So let's say
For the
4
cost of some-
hours,
Right.
even if it's $20, you're talking about under $100 to make sure no one drowns
Exactly.
in your pool.
And you're going to want
That's
to,
priceless.
you're going to want to make sure they have a current lifeguard certification. But anyone with a current lifeguard certification, you could go ask them if they'd be willing to come work for you for a few hours. We don't specifically have any programs like that. That's why I didn't have a rate off
Right.
the top of my head.
So the point is, I would say for under $100 an
Worth
hour,
it.
you could hire somebody to be the or $100 for 4 hours.
I was going to say under $100
I'm
an
sorry,
hour, I'll do it.
$100
I know.
for 4 hours. You could have a dedicated kid watcher that knows CPR that can watch the kids.
Well, and it's a great point because something that we push is we have a ring of safety, which are the things that we say you can do to help keep your child as safe as possible. Supervision is a huge one. And what we often find is that there's more risk in group situations like a pool party.
Right. Because everybody thinks somebody else is watching the kid.
Exactly. Everybody thinks somebody else is watching. So what we recommend is obviously if you can hire a lifeguard, if you can afford to do that, that's fantastic. That's probably your best option because then you can make sure you can have fun, and everybody
But
can have a good
somebody
time.
has to watch. Like,
Somebody.
hand that person something that they hold that
Yes.
if it's in their hand, they know they're watching the kids. And
We
then-
give out these free lanyards that say water watcher in case anybody wants something like that. But we do recommend that you come up with something physical that you can hand off so there's no confusion. Oh, no, I thought it was your hour. You thought it was mine. No one was watching.
So there is a law that says that there has to be barriers around the pool.
There
right?
is a Florida statute that has 4 different or 5 different components on you need to have at least 2 of the 5 to have your pool safe to have children. There's the barrier, there's the alarms, there's the monitoring. There's these different things that you need to abide by. And
Before they even fill up the pool.
before they can even fill the
Yeah.
pool with water.
Correct, yeah.
Well, I
Now-
mean, we have one of our listeners right now saying that she had a friend from high school, 5-year-old son drowned, family function happened so quickly. Nobody, and I've seen it. My other niece literally just went down to the pool. Her dad grabbed her so fast, it was lucky.
Happened so fast. I actually showed up to do a job. Job was scheduled at 9 a.m. I showed up. There's paramedics outside. Grandparents just moved into the
Put the
home.
barrier fence in?
Yeah, I came at 9 a.m. to put the barrier fence in, and the paramedics were outside. The grandparents just moved in. The 2-year-old were able to open the sliding door himself, and they found him in the pool. And the grandfather jumped in, took him out, called 911. They were able to get water out, and he was thankfully fine. And then I installed the pool fence there right away. And
Okay, here are
it's
the
just-
requirements. This is actually Florida Statute Chapter 515. It's called the McKenzie-Merriam Residential
Yeah.
Swimming Pool Act. You need to have a pool must be isolated from access to the home by an enclosure that meets pool barrier requirements.
So pool barrier,
That's where
bird cage.
Genesee
Yeah.
comes in. The pool must be equipped with a pool safety pool cover. All doors or windows providing direct access to the home must have an exit alarm. All doors providing access to the pool must have a self-closing doors and latches and mechanisms. A swimming pool alarm that, when placed in a pool, sounds an alarm. Independent, so it needs to have its own battery backup.
So you don't have to have all of these things.
You need to
but
have a
you do
number
have
of
to
them.
have-
I wish you could.
I think it's 2.
You,
isn't
yeah,
it?
you have
Yeah.
a maximum of 2.
So you can have, for example, a fence in your backyard and a bird cage. That's like the screen enclosure.
Correct. Yeah, I do a lot of the screen enclosures. Then I attach from one post to the other post. I always recommend. Some people think that a lot of homeowners think that they just want to block a little area from the sliding doors leading out to the pool. When I come out to do an estimate, I do estimates free of charge for this reason, because I wanted to make sure that I'm going to do everything up to code. I can't leave any lower windows that's leading to the pool unprotected, or any bathroom doors that are coming from inside the house to the pool, because a kid can access that easily. And I always recommend protecting the screen enclosure doors. A lot of people tend to do yard work and prop those doors open. Your child can go through the front of the house and come out, and the fence is not be protecting that. So I always.
You do the barrier. Are you doing just the pool barrier, or are you doing other stuff too?
No, I just do the pool barrier, but
Okay.
if it has a cage, I go from one post of the cage to the other post.
Got
But I
it.
always recommend keeping the barrier behind the screen enclosure doors. So
Yes.
you have full access to the screen enclosure door. And if you're coming from outside the screen enclosure door, the barrier is there. You can't get to the pool.
So is your barrier, just for the sake of the listeners, is your barrier something that goes over the pool itself, or it goes around the pool?
You can. I drill in about 1 inch, 4 inches in. It's a 1 inch diameter. I put a sleeve in, and our marine grade aluminum poles go into that, and it latches on to the screen enclosure. Or if it doesn't have a screen enclosure, I fully wrap the pool all the way around.
So it doesn't actually go over the pool top.
No, it doesn't go over the pool top. Correct.
Yeah, think about it like it's not really a netting, but it's like a barrier wall with poles that attach and open, and they're
Correct,
really
yeah.
drilled in, and they go all the way around the pool or to
It's
the
it's all held by tension, and a child can't access the pool unless they are open. And on the standard on our fence, it's 4 feet tall. That's Florida Pool Safety Code as well.
So are there different like variations in terms of like the material and the color and that sort of thing?
Definitely, yeah. Our product has been made in the U.S. since 1963. It was actually invented by a grandparent here in Florida. He couldn't keep his 2 grandkids in his lap, so he invented a pool fence. And our owner now bought it about 35 years ago, and he still owns it. It's still being made in Punta Gorda, Florida. We use only marine grade aluminum poles. Everything is powder coated. We're definitely the strongest fence. We're the original child safety fence. So everything else is either made overseas, or it's kind of like a knockoff pool
Yeah.
fence. The demand for it is so much so that people start making it cheaper as well.
So give me 6 reasons baby barrier is awesome. How's that?
We've been around for a long time. We're definitely the best pool fence with the original child safety fence. We have professionals installing the pool fence. We're all insured. There's a lot of companies out there that don't even have insurance getting this stuff done. So
Well, I know you said earlier you were talking about the safety barrier fences being installed wrong. So what's an example
yes, absolutely.
of some of the stuff you've seen where it was
a lot of
installed
people
wrong?
some people don't want to spend the money on it to put a fence up, and they think they can do it themselves. It's protection for a child. You should always have a professional do it, and that can definitely be a thing that a child can bypass that fence if it's not installed correctly.
The biggest thing we see is the poles aren't deep enough. I mean, you were talking earlier
Yeah.
about going an inch down into the...
We go 4 inches, 1 inch diameter. Yeah.
1 inch diameter, 4 inches down. We often see that those just aren't deep enough. That's the biggest corner that your competition cuts, is they just don't go down deep enough if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of homeowners get scared that you're gonna hit a pipe or ruin their deck or something like that. Like I've been doing this for a long time now. I haven't never hit a pipe or anything like that. Everything
Well, it's
is
gotta be
so
deep enough to hold.
exactly. Everything for your pool is so down below, and we go deep enough that you can't take that pole out or.
So
and it's-
is there a warranty? Like how long does it last?
Yes, our manufacturer provides a 10 years manufacturer warranty. So if any manufacturer defects to your fence or anything within 10 years, we 100% can change that for you, replace it.
So they last in a full 10 years? Are they lasting
Yes.
longer?
No, absolutely. They last even longer. Sometimes I do reinstall for grandparents that had our fence installed for their kids 40 years ago. And over the years, their kids grew up, and now they have grandkids, and they've redone their deck. So the holes that were there before from years ago are now covered with pavers.
Yeah.
So I have to come out and replace it, and I can reinstall that same fence they had to
All right,
install 30
when we
years
come
ago.
back, we'll talk a little bit about pricing, and I'll let you guys ask some questions about each other's business, okay?
Absolutely.
This is Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back right after this break, and we'll give you our off-air number, so stick around.
Welcome home, Tampa Home Talk
Our off-air number.
is 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. You can text the word swim or fence.
They can call or text.
Call
our
or
number.
text the word swim if you want to learn how to swim for your baby, and fence or barrier. Fence is an easier word.
Yeah.
Fence if you want a fence around your pool for the baby.
To 813-377-2775. So, it's interesting. You touched on something on the break that I was thinking of. So I'll let you go ahead and share since you brought it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the laws that have gone into place in order to make sure that you do have to have a barrier up around your pool, those laws went into place in 2007. So 90% of homes in Florida are grandfathered in, so they don't technically have to put up a barrier. Now, most people, when they have children in their lives, they generally do because it is becoming more common. Water safety education is becoming more widespread, and I think people are definitely making an effort to make their homes safer. But there may be people around you who don't have a lot of children in their lives. So something we always tell all of our families that swim with us is have an idea of where the unprotected water around you is. So is there a retention pond out back? Do you have, a really young couple with a pool next door who don't have any children around who haven't put in a fence in? Because you definitely want to know where those places are in case your child does go missing.
I think the stats are the likelihood of them drowning even someone else's pool or body of water is pretty good. That number is really high.
Absolutely.
And I know if you think it can't happen to you, you're wrong. I mean, the mechanic that I used for so long, literally his wife went to the bathroom. He left to the store and that quick. Their son drowned
That's
outside,
terrible.
like in a pond, like in a little body of water. So it's everybody always thinks, oh, it can't happen to me. But the number is it one in how many kids? Does anybody know that off the top of your head? One in how many kids has?
One too many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
For
lot.
sure.
And so, nobody ever wants to experience that. So I highly recommend if you or somebody you know has a pool, and especially if you have a pool, but you don't even have to have a pool. Like if you're around or near a body of water and you got some kiddos, grandparents, be the one that gives the gift of learning how to swim or those barrier fences.
And grandparents love our fence because they have grandkids coming from out of state to visit, and they can put up that pool fence up when their grandkids are here, and because they don't like the pool fence being there the whole time, they can take down and cover each hole. I provide, when I do an installation, I provide a deck cap that you can cover
pretty
each
good.
hole. And when the grandkids are gone, they can take it down, and when the grandkids ever come back, they can put it back up.
Now,
It's that
Denison,
simple.
what's the price on those? Because I know we were talking about it, and it depends on obviously how much and how big the fence is.
Correct. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's between about $600 to $1,200, and depending how big the job
How
is.
big
Like
and
a
how much.
fully wrapped pool, it's about $1,200 to $1,300. That's the job done.
But if your pool's like backing up to the screen and your doors on each side, that's on the lower side.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, it can go from $300 to $2,000. It depends how big the pool is and how much fence I'm using and everything. But it's not something that's crazy.
What questions do you guys have for each other? Do you get some people, Frankie, that are like, oh, we put up the pool barrier fence, but we feel like we need to fix the underlying problem, right? And teach them how to swim.
Honestly, a lot of times people will just ask us for like what kinds of additional barriers they can do. So we talk to people a lot about, obviously pool fences are your number one pool barrier that you're going to want to get. But for situations like what I explained, where children just get into everything and they figure everything out, we recommend having some kind of secondary barrier as well, something like an alarm, something to let you know if they've outsmarted you and got past it. I did have a question for you. I was curious if you can, since you said you can remove the pool fences and whatnot, how does that fall in line with the pool safety laws? Like how does...
As far as passing the inspection. Once they're past the inspection, the homeowner doesn't necessarily have the pool fence up.
Okay.
It's really up to them keeping their child or the
We see a
visitor's
lot of
child
times where
safe.
I know they have it because I can see the little holes on the pool deck.
No, correct.
But I'm like, where's your child safety fence? Because I know it was here at one point because I can see the drillings. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's in the attic. Like, we'll get stuff like that because the kids are grown and they can swim.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's nice. The nice thing about the pool fence too is it doesn't necessarily have to be for your kids. You can have friends coming over with little kids and you can just quickly put the pool fence up while your friends are visiting, and then when they're gone, you can take it down.
Yeah, it definitely, there's a lot of reasons why it would make sense.
Always recommend it being there
Those
all the
pool
time,
alarms
but
drive me
some people
nuts.
don't.
Like, I would definitely go with the pool barrier before the pool alarm. I'm just saying, because they are so loud.
Absolutely, and only it prevents a child from accessing the pools too. If your kid gets through that sliding door, he's not going to get through the pool
quicker than
fence.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is right in line with your baby proofing, right? If there's a pool, you got to baby proof the pool too.
Yeah, I mean, we do the inside of the house, and that's where we focus our efforts on baby proofing. But yeah, the outside of the house is just as important. Playgrounds, pools, especially. I firmly believe that it starts with at as young as possible, teaching your child how to swim.
Yeah.
I do a lot of seawalls as well. Not just only for kids, but for pets as well. So many people's pets drown in the seawall, in the waterfront properties because they're so attracted. They see fish or anything swimming back there, they just jump right in the water to try to get it. It's same thing with kids. They're so attracted to the water, they see anything. So we put barriers on those seawalls as well. Our material is so good at sustain being out there, getting the beating from the sun and the salt water or anything like that.
Yeah, that salt water is rough on everything. It's like literally when you live on the water and you're close to the salt, your appliances don't
No,
last that
absolutely.
long.
Yeah, that's why we use marine grade aluminum poles and everything's powder coated, and we definitely have the strongest material in the business for sure.
I love it. So the name of the company is Tampa Bay Baby Barrier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Baby Barrier is the original child safety fence. That's our manufacturer in Punta Gorda, Florida.
Got it.
They've been there
And
since
Do you
1963.
guys do anything else other than the barriers? Are you doing the pool
No,
barriers or anything?
we're specialized just in a pool fence. That's our thing, the child safety pool fence.
What questions do you have for Miss Frankie?
Um,
You guys can definitely bounce some ideas and some people off of each other. I'm
well,
sure.
I personally, I don't have that many questions, but I think swimming is definitely the number one layer of safety.
You said your little one's about to start with us at our
Exactly.
Riverview location. Very exciting.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before we
Yeah,
got
I have
started.
two little ones, a 4 and a 1 year old.
And they haven't started yet?
My 4-year-old has. The 1 year old is about to start.
I tell you what, I swear by them. My kids are like, I've got 2 in and 2 out of the house.
I should have started them earlier, but the whole pandemic thing,
Yeah.
we're just getting it started now.
Well, it's wonderful to have both of you on the
Thank
show
you for
this
having
morning.
us. Was
Absolutely.
May is
awesome
Water
being here.
Safety Month, so thanks for being our
Yeah,
guest.
stay safe
Thank you
out
for
there.
having us.
Yeah, and I'm getting comments from our Facebook listeners, and I'm sure there's people that are watching and listening. It's a great topic to cover, anything in and around that homeowner space, and this is an important one. So
Absolutely.
if you got any questions or you need to hook up with our guests, please give us a call or a text at 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775, and we'll get you connected with Seal Swim School or Tampa Bay Baby Barrier. And of course, if you need our help finding that right home with or without a pool, we can help you with that. 813-377-2775. Love where you live, or we'll fix it. Welcome home.
5.